In 2017, a hurricane flattened Puerto Rico. Nearly 3,000 people died. Roughly $90 billion in damage. And then someone said, great news. The economy grew 8%. Oops. Welcome to the biggest lie in economics. The number that governments celebrate, that news anchors cheer, that markets worship, it doesn't measure what you think it measures. It counts everything that gets spent. But it never asks why. This is not a disaster story, this is a math story. And the math is lying to your face. By the end, you'll understand why a hurricane can boost an economy on paper, why your cancer treatment counts as good news, and why a man who lost everything lives in a country that's never been more successful. Let's call him Carlos, 45, construction worker in Puerto Rico. On September 20th, 2017, Hurricane Maria ripped his roof off at 3 in the morning. He grabbed his kids and ran to a shelter. When he came back, his house was gone, his truck was gone. His tools were underwater. Carlos lost everything he'd built in 20 years. One night, gone. In 2018, Carlos turned on the radio and heard the news. Puerto Rico's economy grew roughly 8%. The biggest jump in years. Carlos looked around. He was living in a tent. Stay with me. Here's the word you hear every day, but nobody explains. GDP, gross domestic product. It means the total value of everything a country produces and spends in a year. When GDP goes up, the headlines say the economy grew. Politicians celebrate. Analysts nod. But here's what GDP actually counts. Everything. A hospital bill, a prison, a bomb, a divorce lawyer, a casino, an oil spill cleanup. If money changes hands, GDP goes up. It doesn't ask whether the money was spent on something good or something terrible. The meter just runs. The exact trigger is debated, but somewhere along the way, this one number became the definition of success. Governments chase it. Markets worship it. And nobody asks what it's actually counting. In 1850, a French economist named Frédéric Bastiat told a story. A boy throws a rock through a shop window. The shopkeeper has to pay the glazier to fix it. The glazier earns money. He spends it somewhere else. The economy moves. People say good, the broken window created business. Bastiat said wait. What about the shopkeeper? He was going to spend that money on a new suit. Now he can't. The suit maker lost a sale. The economy didn't grow. It just shifted. The loss was invisible. The spending was visible. And everyone counted the visible part and ignored the rest. That was 1850, we're still doing it. Hurricane Maria exposed the lie at full volume. The storm caused roughly $90 billion in damage. What followed? Billions in reconstruction spending. Federal aid. Construction contracts. Building materials, labor, all of it counted as economic activity. GDP surged. The number went up, the country went down. Think of it like this. Your house burns down. You spend your savings rebuilding it. You're back where you started. But the spreadsheet says you just injected $100,000 into the economy. Congratulations, you grew. Oops, you didn't gain anything. You just bought back what you already had. The fire didn't create wealth. It destroyed wealth and then charged you to replace it. Now multiply that by an entire island. Carlos got a construction job after the storm, rebuilding someone else's house. He earned money. That money showed up in GDP. What didn't show up? The house he lost. The truck he lost. The tools that took him a decade to collect. The income he missed for 6 months while living in a tent. GDP counted his new paycheck. It didn't subtract his old life. And here's where it gets absurd. Cancer treatment is GDP. The sicker you are, the more you spend on hospitals, drugs, and doctors. The economy grows. A car crash is GDP. Tow trucks, ambulance rides, insurance claims, body shop repairs. The economy grows. A divorce is GDP. 2 lawyers, 2 apartments, court fees, therapy sessions. The economy grows. An oil spill is GDP. The cleanup costs billions. Oops, every disaster. Every tragedy, every breakdown in human life can be good news on a spreadsheet if enough money moves. Picture Carlos in his tent. Night. A battery-powered radio sits on a plastic crate. The announcer says Puerto Rico's economy is recovering at a remarkable pace. Carlos looks at the radio. Looks at the tarp above his head. Looks at the empty lot where his house used to be. The economy recovered. Carlos didn't. Now the pushback. GDP isn't meant to measure happiness. It's a tool, a useful one. It tracks spending, production, economic activity. No single number can capture everything. And Reconstruction does create real jobs, real income, real opportunity, fair points. But here's the mechanism question. If the number that every government, every bank, every news network uses to define success can go up when a country is destroyed, what exactly is it measuring? And if the people who lost the most are invisible in the very number that says their country is thriving, who is that number for? Not for Carlos. Not for you. It's for the people who need a headline. GDP doesn't measure how you're doing. It measures how much is being done to you. 3 things to carry with you. Economic. GDP is a spending meter, not a welfare meter. It counts the cost of your cancer treatment, but not your health. It counts the rebuild, but not the loss. When someone says the economy grew, the only honest question is, grew for whom? Social. Bastiat asked this question in 1850. We still haven't answered it. Every government on earth chases GDP growth. But growth built on destruction is not growth. It's a bill dressed as a bonus. Carlos worked harder than ever after the storm. He earned less than before. The spreadsheet called it a recovery. Global. Right now, wars are being fought, oil is spiking, fertilizer ships are stuck, and reconstruction contracts are being signed. Every one of those crises will show up as GDP growth somewhere. Every one of those invoices will land on someone's kitchen table. The number will go up. The question is whether anyone will ask what it cost. Remember the broken window? The boy threw the rock. The glazier got paid. Everyone celebrated. But the shopkeeper lost a suit. Bastiat saw it. Nobody listened. In Puerto Rico, a hurricane threw the rock. The construction companies got paid. The GDP celebrated. But Carlos lost a house, a truck, a decade of work, and 6 months of his life in a tent. Carlos saw it. The spreadsheet didn't. Until we stop measuring growth by how much is spent and start measuring it by how much is gained, Carlos will never smile at the headline. Quantitative growth fills the spreadsheet. Qualitative growth fills the plate. And until one becomes the other, growth is just a balloon. It looks impressive. It floats above everyone. And only the people holding the string get to enjoy the view. The question isn't whether the economy grew. The question is whether growth that costs you everything you had is a word worth celebrating. If your country's economy is growing and your life isn't getting better, now you know why. What does growth look like where you live? Tell me in the comments. If this changed how you hear the word growth, stick around. We follow the money, not the headlines.